The introduction to the Epic versus Apple dispute sets the stage for understanding this landmark legal battle, which revolves around the broader issues of platform control, market power, and antitrust concerns in the rapidly evolving digital marketplace. Essentially, the case arose when Epic Games, the creator of the popular game Fortnite, challenged Apple's monopolistic practices on the App Store, arguing that Apple's policy of taking a 30% commission on in-app purchases and its restrictions on alternative payment systems were anti-competitive. The significance of this case lies in its potential to reshape how digital marketplaces operate and are regulated. The outcome of the dispute could set precedents affecting how technology companies, developers, and consumers interact within these ecosystems. Notably, the case brought heightened scrutiny over Apple's control of its App Store, prompting discussions about fairness, competition, and consumer choice in a market dominated by a few tech giants. For illustrative purposes, consider two real-world applications. First, Epic's strategic move to introduce an alternative payment system in Fortnite, which bypassed Apple's commission and led to the game being removed from the App Store. This maneuver directly challenged Apple's terms, sparking the legal battle. Second, the broader implications of this case have encouraged other developers and companies to reassess their relationships with dominant platforms, with some considering legal action or seeking policy changes to ensure more equitable revenue-sharing models. Supporters of Epic's position argue that Apple's rigid control stifles innovation and unfairly limits developers' ability to benefit from their own creations. Critics, however, contend that Apple's ecosystem provides significant benefits, including security and ease of use, which justify their business model. The challenges and controversies surrounding this case involve balancing these competing interests, ensuring platform security and user trust, while promoting fair competition and empowering smaller developers. Alternative viewpoints suggest that the increasing concentration of power in the hands of a few tech companies necessitates stricter antitrust regulations to foster a healthier, more competitive digital economy. Critics of this approach, however, warn that over-regulation could inadvertently stifle innovation and limit market-driven solutions. This introductory point connects to broader themes in the dispute, such as regulatory frameworks, developer rights, and consumer protection, which collectively highlight the complex dynamics at play behind these courtroom doors. Understanding the stage setting not only informs viewers about the specific conflict between Epic and Apple, but also provides insights into the broader implications for the tech industry at large. Understanding the core dispute and legal grounds is pivotal in the Epic versus Apple case, as it forms the foundation of the arguments and court decisions. The crux of the dispute arose when Epic Games, the creator of the popular video game Fortnite, challenged Apple's App Store policies, specifically the mandatory use of Apple's in-app purchase system and the commission fees that Apple charges. Epic accused Apple of monopolistic practices, alleging that Apple's control over the iOS platform stifled competition and innovation. This point is significant because it highlights the tension between platform owners and developers concerning digital marketplaces and revenue sharing. As we peek behind the courtroom doors, understanding the core dispute provides insight into the broader implications for app developers and consumers in the digital age. This has become a benchmark case that could influence how digital marketplaces operate worldwide. Specific examples illustrating this include Epic's attempt to bypass Apple's payment system by introducing its own, which resulted in Apple removing Fortnite from the App Store. This catalyzed Epic's legal battle, raising questions about Apple's control over its ecosystem. Another example is the court's decisions, such as the one allowing Apple to maintain its commission fees, but requiring changes that permit developers to inform users of alternative payment options outside the App Store. Several opinions support Epic's stance, including those of developers who feel Apple's commissions are exorbitant. Critics of Apple's policies argue they hinder developers from fully monetizing their products. However, Apple defends its ecosystem by emphasizing security, user privacy, and consistent experiences, citing these as reasons for their stringent control over app distribution and payment processes. Challenges and controversies abound in this discourse. One alternative viewpoint is that of Apple supporters who assert that the company has the right to control its platform as it sees fit. They argue this control ensures high standards for security and user experience. Legal complexities also arise in defining what constitutes monopolistic behavior versus legitimate business practice. This dispute connects to broader issues of antitrust laws in technology, raising questions about how much control platform owners should have over their ecosystems, It has influenced ongoing discussions and legal considerations regarding the balance of power between tech giants and developers. As this legal saga unfolds, it continues to shape the landscape for app distribution, pricing, and competition in the digital economy. Key legal concepts and their industry implications play a pivotal role in understanding the intricacies behind the Epic versus Apple dispute. The heart of this legal battle lies in antitrust laws and their interpretation within the tech industry. Antitrust laws are designed to prevent monopolistic behaviors and promote fair competition. In the Epic versus Apple case, Epic Games accused Apple of maintaining a monopolistic ecosystem through its App Store policies, which dictate how software can be distributed on iOS devices and enforce a 30% commission on in-app purchases. The significance of these legal concepts is paramount, as they could potentially reshape how app marketplaces operate. A ruling against Apple might open up iOS to alternative payment methods and app distribution models, which could usher in a new era of competition and innovation. On the flip side, a ruling in favor of Apple could reinforce the power of its ecosystem, affecting how developers approach the market and monetize their applications. One real-world example of the implications of this dispute can be seen in how companies like Spotify have long criticized Apple's policies, claiming they hinder fair competition by promoting Apple's own services. Another illustration involves Google's Android system, which, though more open than Apple's iOS, has also faced scrutiny and legal challenges regarding its management of its App Store and search engine dominance. Opinions supporting Epic's stance argue that Apple's tight control over the App Store limits choices for consumers and inflates app prices, stifling innovation. Conversely, supporters of Apple's model assert that the ecosystem ensures security, privacy, and a seamless user experience, all contributing to the sustained success of iOS devices. This legal confrontation also raises potential challenges and controversies, such as the risk of increased fragmentation in app ecosystems and the potential for security vulnerabilities if tighter regulations open up platforms. Moreover, this dispute touches on broader discussions about digital marketplaces, privacy, and user rights, issues that resonate beyond the tech industry. In essence, the Epic versus Apple dispute serves as a critical pivot point connecting legal interpretations to industry-wide practices. It influences how tech companies structure their business models and strategize their interactions with regulators and competitors. By exploring these key legal concepts and industry implications, audiences can better grasp the pivotal shifts occurring behind the courtroom doors and their potential impacts on the digital landscape. Courtroom strategies and tactics are the deliberate actions and methods employed by legal teams to effectively present their case, influence the jury or judge, and ultimately aim for a favorable verdict. In the context of the Epic versus Apple dispute, these strategies are crucial as they shape how each party's arguments are perceived and whether their legal and business objectives are achieved. This dispute, revolving around Apple's App Store policies and Epic's strategic pushback, garners significant attention regarding legal maneuvering. The significance of courtroom strategies in this high-profile case lies in their potential to set precedents for antitrust law, influence tech industry norms, and alter market dynamics. Epic's approach included a calculated public relations campaign alongside legal action, aiming to sway public opinion against Apple's perceived monopolistic practices. Meanwhile, Apple employed a strategy focusing on contractual terms and security concerns, defending its ecosystem's integrity and business model. One real-world example illustrating these tactics was Epic's strategic inception of a payment system within Fortnite, directly challenging Apple's App Store guidelines. This intentional breach led to the lawsuit, framing Epic not just as a plaintiff, but as an instigator seeking broader policy change, a bold maneuver that underscored their strategic narrative of advocating for developers' rights. Another example is Apple's use of its economic expert witnesses to testify about the App Store's value and competitive nature, reinforcing their argument that its policies are reasonable and beneficial to consumers. Opinions supporting the importance of these strategies suggest that they are not merely legal procedures, but critical components of broader business strategies. Advocates argue that how a case is presented can sway judicial outcomes and public perception, ultimately impacting industry practices and regulations. However, challenges and controversies arise with courtroom strategies. Critics argue that some tactics may border on manipulative, potentially prioritizing strategic wins over justice or truth. The Epic versus Apple legal battle also highlights differing viewpoints on market competition and consumer choice, raising questions about the balance of power in digital marketplaces. These courtroom strategies connect deeply with other aspects of the dispute, such as public relations and industry regulations. They influence and are influenced by public sentiment, media narratives, and potential legislative changes, which are integral to the overarching theme of this legal saga. Through strategic litigation and its associated tactics, both companies aim to not only resolve a legal dispute but shape the future landscape of digital commerce.